please. No attacks.
I haven't said anybody's name.
It does, no, it's implied. Please don't.
The hiring of an actual attorney, claiming in part the cost,
Please.
but failed to mention.
Jackie, please. No more.
There was a meeting that was called.
Your 2 minutes are up, please.
I'd like my 2 minutes back. I was interrupted.
No, I'm sorry. That's the rules.
Can we have a vote on it?
No, that's the board. It's the chair's prerogative.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'll keep track of time. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, it's Doug Patterson.
Doug Patterson for the record. I basically came to ask you to proceed as fast as you can and as thoroughly as you can with a forensic audit. There are people out there that I know that are willing to contribute money towards it, but it needs to be secure, the money needs to be secure and for a forensic audit only. Until that can be done, proceed as you will, but please bring us a forensic audit. Thank you.
Next up is Sandy Brower.
I actually have my comments about the agenda. Agenda item, approval of board minutes. Why is the board not approving minutes from meetings held in June and July, especially a board meeting where the board approved the Start my minutes over? If I need to repeat, sorry.
Please.
Yeah.
Go.
So, agenda item, approval of the board minutes. Why is the board not approving minutes from meetings held in June and July, especially a board meeting where the board approved a district emergency? Old business. I have serious concerns with the forensic proposal, potential approval tonight. I have reviewed Idaho code and feel that the superintendent, as directed by the board, has failed to meet many requirements listed in code. The proposal is conceptually off. It lacks any specifics, which is required under statute 672806A. The proposal does not encompass a time period and does not specify accounts. It is purposely vague and, in my opinion, a witch hunt and harassment motivated by politics, and in no way is to ensure accountability for a district or public funds. This proposal is violation of statute. I would ask the board not to approve or waste district funds unless they can identify criminal activity, not accusations and slander, actual wrongdoing. In addition, records complied in scoring processes shall be made available to the public for inspection when a procurement recommendation is made to the governing board. We have not been provided records compiled to get the scorecard attached to the agenda. Another violation of code. Please revisit and review. We have extensive internal audits every year. Members of this board and superintendent are now suggesting that the accounting firm, who is very reputable, is incompetent. I do not believe this is the case. Approval of new hires. I do not see any new hires on the agenda. However, know that we have new business manager and HR personnel working. Why are they not added to the board for approval? Please clarify that for us. Executive session for board clerk hire. I don't see that this position was posted on the district site. Please post so other people in the community may have the opportunity to apply. When Brandy Parody was appointed to the position, it was an interim. I want to be assured that fair hiring processes are occurring to protect the district from litigation. Please clarify that. Public comments, according to your policy, allows for 2 minutes prior and 2 minutes after the meeting. Why are you not
time's up.
applying to that public? If you could clarify that, would be great. And since I talked really fast, I wanted to print my public comment, so you might address them during your meeting. Thank you.
Next up, Brooke Ramsey. Is it Brooke or? Okay.
Hi there. My name is Brooke Ramsey. I am a fifth generation Priest River native. I have spent time as a coach in this school district, as an assistant coach in this school district, which made me very happy today when I got to see the video that Susan made showing that they had suddenly found $1 million. So, and another secret account. makes me look forward to the fact that now we have all this extra money. We can approve co-curricular activities, pay for the coaches, including the assistant coaches, as well as pay for transportation. It's really good news. I would also like to add, if she's suddenly found this account, most of these board members have been here for over a year and a half. Why aren't you guys doing the job so that you would have known about this account prior? Thank you.
Next up, Katie Elisazer.
Thank you, Katie Elsesser. I had my stuff on the agenda, specifically the audit proposals. I'm concerned that not all the board members are getting the audit proposals, or the public's not. A summary sheet is fine to help guide the discussion, but the fact that we don't even know where these numbers are coming from and what they're going to cover and their time frame for completion is concern before proceeding. I think you need to table this item until those can be out there for everyone to thoroughly look through the proposals before you select a proposal. I think that the Pattersons have a great idea with letting people donate to a specified fund, because I think that's the biggest concern everyone in our community has for a forensic audit, has to do with the cost. So if there are community members willing to, I think that's a great idea, and I think that the board should look into how to get those segregated funds towards it.
Time's up.
I've got 49 seconds. I've been timing myself, and I'm only at 49 seconds.
Okay, 49 seconds, go.
No, I mean, I've only spoken for 49 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
Additionally, on the facility use form, I hope you guys might take a moment on pause on actually finalizing that, just because of the cost. There's a lot of things to take in consideration having to do with someone using fields versus gyms, so I hope that you could table that for a little bit further discussion on how that would apply to certain items. Additionally, I keep hearing rumors that we're going to have junior high kids in portables. That's not secure. I'm very concerned, as well as with the junior high being either leased or sold. There's no rush to do this. There's time for thoughts. We have 41 days away from school. I feel like we can take the time to thoroughly vet all the processes and have community involvement and not railroad through agendas. I'm worried about, there's rumors also of selling the buses again, and that's not being discussed. It's not on the agenda, but I'm concerned that this is being said out there by the superintendent to people. That's concerning to me. And finally, one of the biggest concerns I have is public records requests are still not being answered. I have one 3 weeks pending. It is 10 days. It's by statute. It needs to be complied with. Thank you.
Next up is Jack M. He has a total of 4 minutes because he has donated time from another patron. We can't do that. Never mind. You get 2.
Whatever. Why were 5 fuel cost proposals mailed out to
Jack M.
Jack Morales? Mailed out only to have 4 of the 5 returned with addresses unknown or undeliverable. Did somebody forget all the local addresses of the businesses that the district does business with on the regular? Or is it more sinister than that? Maybe the only company to receive the request and submit a bid was predetermined to receive the contract. Maybe looking into how many prior contracts were given to this company is warranted. Just saying. And with that said, I challenge the community to put your money where your mouth is. Donate some of the levy tax money that you were willing to give up when you voted yes. For these reasons and many others, I'm in support of the forensic audit. Therefore, my wife and I will donate $500 a month to the school district in support of the audit until it's completed.
Okay, that's all the sheets I have. Are there any public comments that didn't fill out a sheet? Okay, I need a motion to close public comments.
I make a motion to close public comments.
Wait a minute. Okay, what? Are you? Okay, go ahead.
Make sure she fills out a sheet,
Okay.
so we have it for the record.
Did you fill out or you got a sheet? Okay.
I'm Gary Go, longtime community member, born and raised in Idaho, lived here 69 years. I just want to say the district did receive a bid for a gas bid, but why wasn't it not rewarded? Any bid that goes out is a competitive bid. People that own businesses, you bid a bid or build a house. You put a bid, you try to get the best quality with the right amount. Well, gas is gas, diesel is diesel. There's no way you're going to change that. Why isn't the lowest bid taken? I'm asking you.
Your time's comment, we're to listen.
Okay? I'm waiting for your comment.
It's your time to talk, not mine.
Okay? I like to say something, but I'll probably get kicked out of here. But like I said, 69 years, born and raised on a farm, been here most of my life as administrator, educator. Many of you know me. I'm a straight shooter, and I don't think you could disagree with that. But I just want to know why a low bid wasn't accepted.
That's it? Time's
Okay,
up.
thank you.
All right. I think, need a motion to close public comment?
I make a motion to close public comment.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, I have a second from trustee Hall. All those in favor of closing public comment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, public comment is closed. Okay, first up, old business, possible action item, possible selection of forensic audit firm. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, appreciate the opportunity to be here. Just again, for the record, I'm Superintendent Brandon Durst, and as the board is aware, the board requested on July 11th that has instructed me to draft and disseminate an RFP for a forensic audit for this district. I did so, and we had a deadline set for July 21st, 2023. I would point to an item in your packet entitled Forensic Audit Proposals Executive Summary. You can find that here. Just want to quickly address a couple things that I heard during public comment that might be helpful. Inspection of the proposals could have happened at the district office. That's where they were being made available. If anyone had wanted to come and see them, they were able to do that at that time. We weren't putting them on the website due to concerns about impropriety and potential bias of the selection process, which in an RFP process, which is different than a bidding process, can be protected, especially for firms that utilize proprietary intellectual property that might be used for this particular area, for other areas like this. So it could have been reviewed, but we weren't going to be putting them online. That's why, if inspection had wanted to happen, if somebody wants to come anytime in the future, we'll continue to retain those records for people to look at if they would like to inspect. So the methodology that I utilized here was just to create a rubric, which you all can see in the board packet. And the rubric was pretty straightforward. It was tied directly to the RFP and emphasized the things that I understood the board to want to take into consideration most significantly, which you'll notice that on the rubric, over half of the scoring came from cost. recognizing that there was some sensitivity to the price of this. That was the preeminent driver of the scoring. The phase one was separated from the others, going back to Trustee Hall's suggestion that we go to a phased approach, and also making sure that we would have the opportunity to try to limit our costs if that was necessary, so we could make sure that the first phase, where we get a preliminary report, was going to be able to consider within its own cost structure. Also, the ability to meet deadlines was considered, as well as the overall timeline for completion was a consideration. Of course, we looked at the ability for any any responsive proposal to complete the project. Having worked in a space where we had to submit bids to government contracts before, I know that that's oftentimes quite a common thing to include, because you might get anybody that could apply or could respond to a proposal, but they may not have the ability to actually do the job. And so it's important to make sure that anyone that we have was able to do so. And then also to make sure that, to see if they had any experience in public school audits, as well as specifically audits in the state of Idaho. I will report that none of the responsive proposals had any forensic audit experience in Idaho specifically, but that's not terribly surprising, considering the fact that there aren't many districts that I could find, or any actually, that I could find that have done this, at least not in the recent history. So you can see on the back page of the summary the overall scoring matrix. One proposal clearly had higher scores than others, and that was utilizing this rubric. It had expertise in the area, had the ability to do it. It has a niche of working in public school audits. It was the lowest cost for the phase one. It was able to meet the deadline, as all of them were. It was also the lowest cost overall. And the one thing that it didn't have the highest score on was timeline. I believe, and I could look at the computer, I believe they said they would have their job done in October. We had one bid that said they could have it done in September. So that's the distinction there. And then they also had, like I said, they had the best overall cost. The reason I differentiated between phase two plus cost and total cost is because some bidders had cost per phase, and then they also had an additional cost that they had to kind of pad their bid or their proposal. And so the numbers weren't always the same. Some of them they were, some of them they weren't. And so I thought it was important that we capture the actual total cost. And I always utilized, if the proposals used a range of potential cost, I always used the highest number for all of them. So that way we were using the most conservative number we could, the number that would cost the district the most. And that was consistent with all the proposals. That's how those are scored. So I'm happy to answer any questions of the board, and leave the time to you.
Any questions?
Brandon, what's the general timeline that this audit is looking at?
So this, as per the RFP, which is in your packet, I think it's addendum A, the proposal goes back 5 years. It's a 5-year audit from the prior 5 fiscal years, so July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2023. And all the bidders understood that to be the timeline, as you can see, as would be seen in the proposals that were submitted.
Okay, and then the other comment is that whichever firm we work out, it needs to coordinate a certain degree with our financial auditor, whom I talked with today, who's aware of this. They have seen the RFP and the scoring, because it is public information.
Mm-hmm.
That will need to be, and they will come forth and get hold of, try to get hold of you in the next day or two. So, because that was supposed to start August 7th, so there's definitely a combination. So what, does this firm that you're suggesting also need an outside person to come and help get the documents?
Here's the way that the RFP was written is that they would so the way that most of these firms did it is they had different levels of expertise that could be working on the projects, and those had varying degrees of cost per level. So if you had an associate or a senior auditor or a director level, had different costs for the district. Most of them indicated, and I think the proposal for the one you're referring to also indicated that to the extent that we might be able to provide them the records less expensively, that they would be open to that. They would give us a sheet of things that they needed. They would be happy to do it themselves if they were given the proper authority to seek those records themselves. But it was a matter of saying, it's up to you guys how you'd like to proceed. I would say it's just to kind of provide a little bit more clarity on that. My guess is that there could be some cost savings to go in that direction. How much, I'm not sure, because it kind of depends on how long it takes for them to get the documents put together. It could save us $1,000, I mean, at the most, I would say. So it's really up to the board as to whether or not they want to proceed in that direction or not.
I would say have them do the whole thing and not bring in out anybody else.
Yeah.
Have them do it. The other thing that I'd like to bring forth on the board on this forensic audit, obviously, I haven't seen Trustee Vice Chair Brown's video today, but I think any of the additional information that relates to accounting, relates to building, there needs to be a gag order on this board, not to dirty the waters for the forensic audit and the public, and that the auditors need to do their job, and it doesn't need to be part of the political discussion at this point. Once we make this decision, they need to do their job, and they need to get it done. And we don't mess it with it, because I had no idea about the $1 million account, and I just think that stuff, if it's going to come out or whatever, should not be in a video. It should be let known to the rest of the board first, and the same with the forensic audit. This stuff should not be leaked out to the public beforehand, before the rest of the board is not aware of it. And with the forensic audit, how would we set up an account? I mean, there's been the question, how do we set up an account? Because if we make a motion, it should include setting up account for that money to go into simultaneously.
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Hall, I think that we would need some legal counsel on that. I actually don't think, my initial idea is that the district should not be opening an account for that purpose, that if private parties would like to open that account and then donate to the district with an agreement, with a stipulated donation agreement, they could do that. And I think that would probably be the most clean way for us to proceed. So that way there was a clear record trail that could be discoverable if there was ever a question about that, but it could also make sure that the district is not exposing itself to any undue liability. That's how I would personally recommend we proceed, but there may be a difference of opinion from legal.
So it would be something similar that we've talked about with the extracurricular co-curricular.
Correct. I would use the same. I would use the same
outside,
mechanism.
And then it could be donated at that time.
Mr. Chairman and Trustee Hall, that's what I would recommend we do, because then if a group wants to go to Umpqua or wherever and open up an account, and they all just know what the account number is, and they go in and drop off checks for that, and then they have a representative who's a signee on that account, bring a check to the office, and we have a stipulated agreement in place, then we could go that way.
Okay. Further comments? Okay. Okay, based on the scoring matrix,
Just really one quick one. We are doing it in the blind. Usually we see that. And I do respect what the audience, the public has said about not seeing it before us. Can you divulge who we are now voting for?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Hall, once a board has been, if a motion, let me step back.
The motion's been out. Then
Once a motion has been approved, then I can divulge who it was. But here's the issue. I don't want there a question of impropriety being in place, saying that we preferred one vendor over another. And given that I had conversations with some vendors before to just get a sense of what the RFP should look like, which I've disclosed on the record here, I want to make sure that everything that we do here is is there, if the board does want me to disclose who they were, I can do that, but I don't know if that's the best idea from a legal standpoint, but I'm happy to do it.
Okay, so
I think that it's what?
the way I see it is that we score, we choose the proposal based on the scoring. That's the first step.
So I would say, and at this point, I do agree that we need a forensic audit just to get it behind us and to get in and clarify things. I know that there is, it's not been specifically stated to me directly what are the allegations that people are looking at specifically, but I know that the forensic audit could go ahead and maybe help clarify procedures. It would give the greater trust to the community on certain members, and for that, I am making a motion for proposal 4 to be accepted as our forensic audit, and that one was the lowest. That was the lowest phase 1 and lowest phase 2, but did not meet the best timeline. But it sounds like it's a best fit, and it's a local firm. I'm guessing out of Spokane, if I'm guessing correctly.
They have offices in Idaho.
Okay. So I have a motion on the floor to accept proposal 4. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a first from trustee Hall, second from Vice Chair Brown. All those in favor of proposal 4, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion carries.
And that was an aye
Aye.
from trustee Barton.
And just for the board's edification, proposal 4 came from Ida Bailey.
That's what I was hoping. I have looked into them. I did look into them.
Okay. Perfect.
Though, I know I'm outside that, but it would be good for them, and I hope, Brandon, that you will, Mr. Durst, that you will go ahead and make sure that coordination happens between Brandon Blair and Heidi Bailey, because their timelines are basically overlapping in terms of getting that schedule
Yep.
done.
And I would say too, if the board wants, if anyone in either the public or the board wants to come and inspect the proposals, they'll be at the district office for them to do so.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is a possible action item, approval of the 2023-2024 lunch prices. Do I have a motion to?
I'll make a motion to bring that to the table, the approval of 2023-2024 school lunch prices.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Vice Chair Brown seconds. Discussion?
Do you need me to present it again, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, our food service manager or director, Terry Johnson, asked me to present this for her. She wasn't able to be here tonight, and I said I'd be happy to do it. And I know, just to kind of clear up any potential confusion for the board, at the most recent regular meeting in June, this came under 2 separate sections, but really they're the same thing. They're dealing with the same topic, and so that's why it was my recommendation to the chairman and to the clerk that we consolidate these, because they're ultimately the same thing. We can't really, we can't accept one and not the other, basically. So Terry told me that, a lot of the PLE is federally directed. It's a formula that they create. It's not something that we have any discretion on. If I asked her, I said, just give me the brass tacks, Terry. I said, what happens if we don't adopt this? And she says, you might lose all of our school lunch funding for next year. And I said, okay, well, that's all I need to know. And so just so we are all clear on what we're looking at, the prices would be changed for the elementary school to be $3.50, and then for the secondary school to be $3.75. And that would be consistent with the PLE, which is the pricing algorithm function that they use to come to how much things should be. They have to be within a certain, a few cents of what the pricing is supposed to be, and they do that by calculating how much was paid, how many people utilized it, and a bunch of factors like that. And that's how that number is derived. It's like I said, she just plugs it into a worksheet, into a formula, and it spits out, this is how much your school lunch program should be. You'll notice that what she's done, actually, she's reduced the cost for the elementary students by a little bit, and she's put it back up to on the secondary, which is already higher anyways, because secondary, lunches cost more because they're larger in quantity. So, but it makes it easy. A 350 is a lot easier to count out. If she was being really specific, it should be 355. But as a parent, I can't imagine trying to find a nickel every morning to give to one of my kids. So, it's a lot easier just to do things on quarters, which is why she ended up where she did, just from a feasibility standpoint. So I don't have much more to add. I can answer your questions potentially, but from what I can tell, this is a must pass thing, so we can, supply our kids with lunch meals.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one question is, how much is, it looks like 11,329, well, 65 will be a little less because it's a little, but I guess how much is this, has she projected how much a deficit we might run into at the end of because we usually, unfortunately, run a deficit with the school program.
It sounds like it, and Mr. Chairman, Trustee Hall, I apologize for not having the perfect answer to your question, but the way that I understood it was she said that this will get us very close to meeting our obligation from a payment so that there's little arrears. I mean, that's assuming payment is made. If people don't pay, then there's a different issue there, but if payment is made, then we should be close to breaking even.
So I will make a motion to approve the proposed meal prices for the adults, and the students.
Okay,
breakfast,
Trustee Hall
lunch.
makes a motion to approve the lunch schedule as noted, or lunch prices as noted. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Vice Chair Brown seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Clarification, it's breakfast and lunch. Make sure we get the lunch.
Okay, breakfast and lunch. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Next up, possible action, consideration, and approval of the new bus purchase. Do I have a motion to discuss the new bus proposal, purchase?
I'll make a motion to discuss the possible purchase of a new bus.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Vice Chair Brown. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Debate?
Any details we need to know about on this one? Actually, I don't see Harlow, which is a normal one that we see. I just see the Bluebird one, so.
Yeah, so
curious
my
on that.
understanding from speaking with Mrs. Overland and others is that this is kind of a, we need to take advantage of this now, or we're going to have to wait another year situation. And so we have two buses that need to go to Sandpoint, I think, to be cut and smashed so we can get reimbursed, but those have to be spent on yellows to reimburse them. But this is part of that process that we have to go through to be on the right schedule.
And any reason, did Virginia say any reason why? Because it's usually we get a Harlow's, Troy isn't correct, we get a Harlow's bid on this usually. I'm just curious that we're just getting the Bluebird.
And I don't have any detail on
On
that. I
that.
just know, I do know that she said we're probably already a month behind anyway from where we should have been.
Okay.
But she said we need to get this done as fast as we can. I can't, but to be honest, Trustee Hall, I don't know the details on that.
And was there a choice that we needed to make? There's two size buses. Do we need to determine which bus we want? Or are we looking at both of them just for clarification?
That I'm not sure, and I don't want to.
There's a 54 and then there's a 71.
My guess is that I think we're replacing I think we're terminating service with two of the longer ones. So my guess would be that we would need to get a longer one to replace it. But again, I don't want to say that for certainty because I'm not 100% sure. I was less briefed on this particular issue.
This one is a gasoline engine. It's not a diesel.
Okay, but I did see one that was 54 seats, and then there was one for 71 seats, and that's what I'm trying, I thought I swear there was one for 7, unless this got,
Oh, that's in the big packet.
did it get taken out of it that I'm missing? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just this, we're only looking at a 71-seater. The earlier packet had no, I think we still have a 54. No, I guess the 54 got removed.
Correct.
All right, sorry.
Because at the last meeting, they were talking about that, and I just wanted to do the larger bus.
Okay. Just when I download it try to be on top to be able to read it beforehand, I look at one thing and then it gets switched on me. So, all right, so it's just the 71, so there's no question on
Yeah,
it,
the
just
other thing of note, when I spoke with Virginia, is that the two buses that this is replacing, we received $50,000 for those from the federal program.
Each?
No, total.
Total.
Total. So it'll cover just about half of the replacement costs on this. So the total replacement cost on this will be about $62,000.
Keep into your mic so Carla can hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's what I was just going to ask. Thank you.
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
can't hear anything that's being said.
The total cost of this bus will be about $62,000 and some change, because we get $25,000 per bus when we take two buses out of circulation. They go through a federal program to take them off the road, so we get reimbursed $25,000 each for those buses.
Can that money be used on one bus instead of two?
Yes,
It can be?
yes. According to Virginia, when we were talking.
Okay.
Can you say that again?
According to Virginia, when we were talking, those two buses can be used on this bus.
the refund, the
Yes.
funding from it.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the bid from Bluebird for the 71-seater bus.
Okay, Trustee Hall makes a motion to accept the bid for the 71-seat bus from Bluebird. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a second from Vice Chair Brown. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. All right, next up is the first reading, consideration for amendment of policy 8100-1, leasing of school buses.
Is this a,
Is it in our packets?
it's just a statement from Virginia stating that, I'll make a motion to bring, it should be just consideration of a new policy 84 lease,
Oh, here it is. I got
one
it.
leasing of school buses. She made a recommendation to create that policy. It's not the policy. So I make a motion to bring Virginia's letter to the table. It's not an action item. I guess, well, it would be an action item to create the policy.
Okay, I have a motion from Trustee Hall to bring Virginia Overland's letter to the table for discussion for possible policy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second from Vice Chair Brown. Discussion?
I think I would recommend that we follow Virginia's policy and create an 84 -1 for potential leasing of school buses. I know that the district didn't realize that we needed, that was probably something we haven't been doing and it needs to be done. So I would say let's close it, and it could be a method of, we do make some money on it. I mean, we do lease the buses and we do charge people when they are leased for weddings and things like that on occasion, so I would make a motion
Well,
to.
okay, the activity trips, buses may not be loaned or leased to non-school groups unless permission, okay, I got it, okay.
Yeah. So, but basically, we'd be cleaning up our policies by including a policy 8400-1-1.
Okay,
So we need to create it.
okay, so I have a motion on the floor to create policy 8100-1.
8400-1.
8400-1, sorry. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Troy Reinbold seconds it, or Trustee Reinbold seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, next up is the second reading of enrollment policies 3010, 3010F, 3010P. I need a motion to bring these to the floor.
I'll make a motion to bring 3010F, or 3010, 3010F and 3010P to the floor, and it's the open enrollment policies.
Okay, I have a first from trustee Hall. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Vice Chair Brown to bring up enrollment policies 3010, 3010F, 3010P. Discussion?
I think we had to make a choice. We read them before. I had no problems with 3010. With 3000, excuse me, wait a minute, let me just go back. With 3010 there, I did not see any changes that were needed. With 3010F, I did see we needed to make a choice. It hadn't been clear the choice, and it looks like, make sure that we change it to include district under application and approval process.
Okay.
Um,
Did everyone see that?
What's that?
Did you see that?
What's that?
That, what trustee Hall just said?
I can't hear it.
Oh.
I can't tell, is it now? It seems like it's something.
Because this is the one where trustee Reinbold had wanted to make sure if a student was currently in the district, they couldn't get bumped by another student, correct? If someone new was coming in?
Yes, and that was included. I think there's a couple of places that is included. I think it's in P.
Yeah.
One of them is in P,
It's right here.
and one of them
Okay,
is in
perfect, thank you.
F.
Yeah, down at the bottom.
So there's a first come, first serve, and then we need to identify under first come, first serve. 3010P, we need to look at on page 3 of that. We need to make sure that the full district name is put in there, resides in the West Bonnet County School District, needs to be included.
Up at the top, you see that? There.
And then the class size was identified here as 21, 21, 27, 20, 160. So we identified the class sizes that would be acceptable.
Not 100 students,
No.
160 students per
Right.
class.
No, 160 students per teacher per day, or core classroom of 26.
Okay.
So it looks like we striked out 21, but 21 is what we had talked about, right? Are you seeing that on yours as well?
Yeah, it's still 21, 21,
Okay.
27, for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but then 20. Maybe it's because it was hard to read in there, I don't know. I'm not sure why.
Okay. Do you guys still agree, 21 for classroom size?
And I think this was, the administrators, I think, looked at this.
They
and-
did, yeah, I
and
remember Lynn talking about it.
People were talking about it, and Susie.
Okay, any other discussion?
The only question I've got, and Mr. Brennan, are you able to, on 3010P-A, or 3010P-5, at the bottom, it's above the students with disabilities. That second paragraph from the bottom says, board must issue, that thing says the board versus the superintendent of the receiving school must render a decision to the parent guardian at their next regular meeting, and the board must issue their decision in writing. The decision of the board may be appealed to the State Board of Education. Is that the new, is that the?
I'm trying to find where you're at, trustee Hall.
Okay.
Oh, it's on page 5 of the 3010P. Second paragraph up from the bottom. Because you're right, I think we talked about that last time, should it be superintendent or should it be board?
But
Oh, the board, I see the second paragraph from the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like an interesting place to have it appealed to is the State Board of Education. It could take quite a while if it's on a regular
I
meeting
think-
cycle.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, trustee Hall, I would say, it is a little bit strange, but just knowing in other places in Idaho code, and where the appealable decision can go to the State Board of Education, I suspect, in light of the fact that this is now a state law, that there is a property right that exists for the student to request that, and so that's why they've queued in the State Board of Education to make that final determination, because it's now state law instead of a board policy for each individual district.
Okay. So, those were the only things that I noted on those the items that I just mentioned.
Okay.
And I don't think there's, I'm just making sure we don't have to adopt, I think,
Okay,
anything else.
do I have a motion to accept the policies as noted?
I'll make a motion to accept the policies 3010 and 3010P as noted.
Also 3010F?
Oh, sorry, 3010F.
Okay, so please clarify your motion.
I make a motion to approve the policies 3010A, 3010F, and 3010P
Okay,
as noted.
okay, so it's just 3010, but all those in favor? I mean, I need a second.
I'll second it. I'll
Okay.
second that motion.
All those in favor of accepting policies 3010, 3010F, 3010P, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, policies are adopted on the second reading. Next up are board member reports. Do we have any board member reports?
A couple of quick ones. I just want to inform the other members of the board that negotiations, we will have another follow-up. Chair Rutledge and myself have been in negotiations on the negotiations committee, and we will have our next follow-up meeting on Monday, July 31st at 5 p.m. at the district office. We have a tentative backup date for a second one on August 1st, Tuesday, August 1st, that hopefully at 5 p.m. I've been working hard with Mr. Durst to come up with, help to figure out, crunch some numbers, figure out some numbers in that process. Furthermore, will be a presentation this afternoon, very at the end, for the extracurricular, co-curricular that put together. It's a summary of Trustee Barton's and myself's, the work sessions and the findings from those. And then just very briefly, I've had too much time to look at all the things that have been going on in social media, but I do want a couple of clarifications in terms of the legal attorney issue. I did reach out to Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene. They do have other, my only beef with our attorney, a picking one attorney, and abdicating to Chair Rutledge was that I wanted to be part of that process. There's Lyons O'Dowd down in Coeur d'Alene that's an educational attorney. There's Anderson Julian Hall that we could have chosen that St. Mary's uses, and Chris Jorgensen. His specialty is charter schools, but he does have a background in education law. But I just would have liked to have had that due diligence. In terms of the indication of the check, and I think there was an insinuation that I was the chair at the time that check, the wrong name was on that student body account. It actually happened when I switched from chair, when I was chair and it switched over to Chair Rutledge, there was just a gap in that. It was unfortunately it was a mistake by picking the wrong one. It was the student body account, not the big general fund. And finally, in terms of the curriculum and bringing it back to the board, I just want to go on record that the vice chair at that time and myself spent, I would say, several hours discussing it back and forth. I was not taking it lightly. We were looking at it seriously, and it was not my decision alone to make that. I didn't feel so, and I did talk with the vice chair at that time to make that decision. And according to Robert's Rules of Orders, 2 board members need to bring something to the chair if they're going to change it. I did talk with Chair Rutledge to make that, or Vice Chair Rutledge at the time, and as I said, it took several hours. I know there's other issues out there, but with negotiations and extracurricular and where we're going, that's primary on my time, and I don't need, and looking at the forensic audit and making a decent decision, that's my priority, not what's behind us. what I'm looking at is where we're going.
Mr. Chair and the board, I have been looking at a program that I'd like to have us put on the agenda for next month. It's virtual learning, and for some students that might have some limitations, some of the information that I'll share next month might be something that we'd want to look at where we could actually utilize some of our paraprofessionals in helping and giving students some real one-on-one time. It encompasses history, math, science, all types of things, and I think it might be a real good venue to take a good look at. So I'd like to have that added for next month.
Is there a name of it?
Yes, and I apologize, I didn't bring that piece of paper, but I'll get it to you tomorrow.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, next up are principal reports. Do we have any principals? Okay, treasurer's report.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. Never mind. May want to let her know that she's on.
What's that?
Just let Melissa know that she's.
Melissa, can you hear us? You're on. There you go.
Yes, I'm so sorry about that. For the record, my name is Melissa Riley, and I am the interim business manager. And I just completed my first week working for the district. Pleased to inform you that the budget is currently in the final stages of preparation. It's set to be presented for approval at the upcoming board meeting next week. And at that time, we'll have more detailed information to share. Payroll was, and we're also optimistic about several pending payments which have been requested this board.
Okay, any questions from the board?
No, we will be getting the breakdown of the budget next week on Wednesday, correct?
Sorry, it's difficult to hear if you are talking to me. My apologies.
We were just asking if we're going to get the breakdown on the budget next week.
Yes, that's the goal. We're working on that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Next up is the superintendent's report.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have a lot of things to report, but I'll try to keep it brief. Obviously, the district has been moving expeditiously to fill positions. I know there was questions about whether or not those had been placed on frontline and other locations. They have been in accordance with board policy. Those positions have all been placed, and we've been utilizing our district's procedures in that. Our K-6 admins have been interviewing candidates for those open positions. We have some other positions that we are interviewing for last weekend. We'll continue to do that throughout this week as well. So that's number one. So we're finding some pretty high quality candidates who've applied for positions here, and we're excited about that. As Mrs. Riley just indicated, we're diligently working on completing the budget so it can be proposed, so it can be presented to the board for next week's consideration, and ultimately, hopefully, get it sent to the state by August 4th, which is the deadline they've given us to get things to them. And so that is where we are right now. I can share, and I'm excited to share this. I was informed this morning, and I apologize to Trustee Hall, and I didn't tell Trustee Reinbold this either, because neither you guys weren't at the office this morning, not that you had to be, but happened to be that Mr. Chairman Rutledge and Trustee Brown did stop by, so I shared it with them. I discovered this morning that we had a $896,000 payment coming from the county that will be delivered next week. And that money was the part of the leftover money from the levy that we had. That money has to be spent in the next fiscal year, or this current fiscal year, It doesn't have to be, but it has to be spent on anything that's related to that was for the levy. So as you might be able to imagine, that could cover every penny that's needed for our extracurricular and co-curricular. I would note that the previous budget did not include this money at all. All we had in the previous local revenue was $133,900 for our tort levy that we collect, not any of this other money. We also still have about $150,000 of money still to be collected on that levy, in addition to the $896,000 that we're going to be getting next week. So that is to say that I'm pretty excited about that. I'm glad that the office was able to do due diligence to find out what we actually had coming to us, and we were able to utilize that to make a better decision when it comes to our budgeting for this current fiscal year. I think that's a real win. That's a real win for our students, frankly, and it's going to allow us to do a lot of things that we need to do going forward. I've been meeting with, I met with our admin team this afternoon for about 2.5 hours, and we went over a lot of different things related to hiring. We're going to be posting a curriculum director position that will assist with helping our lower achieving students improve their outcomes. Something that I mentioned that I wanted to do, and we're going to continue to do that. We came to an agreement on how that should be announced. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. I'm excited about some of the progress we're making, and I'm excited to get the budget finalized so we can get to the business of educating children.
So which levies, because sounds like that's an accumulative group of levies, that the money?
So that came from the levy that we previously had that was not continued. That money that was already
Because there's 4 levies that we're still sort of seeing money on. Is that the cumulative of all
yes,
of
that is the
those?
cumulative. So when I talked to the auditor's office this morning, they said of the levies that of the amounts that were still to be collected, they were cutting a check for $896,859. So roughly $897,000 to be sent to the district next week. And then of that amount, there was still $155,000 to be collected, which could be collected anytime in the next 12 months, however long it takes for property taxpayers to get current and with extension, things like that.
So I would like for the record to have those broken down to each of the levies, because we've got, I think 2018, 19, 2019, 20, 2020, 2021. We need to know which levies, because that money wasn't spent. Some of that money was not spent because, and I don't know if, to figure this out, was that for facilities projects that had been put off until, that had been postponed?
Right.
Or part of that is for the curriculum. I mean, if that's the money that's identified for, was identified for specific costs, we need to make sure that we don't go ahead and say, oh my, we're going to spend it, yay, hey. We need to make sure that we understand what was designated for, and that would come out of looking at each one of those levies and seeing what unspent projects there were, because that's why there was some money there, because those projects were supposed to be done or curriculum supposed to be bought. So we don't want to go ahead and spend it and realize, oh my gosh, we got to the end of the day and we said we're going to do that project and we didn't.
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Hall, it's my understanding that this was all from the most recent levy, but I will call back and talk to the auditor's office to confirm that, and I'll refer to our L2 as well to see what collections we've had. Presumably, the auditor's office has been taking property tax payments and paying us out from oldest levy to newest levy. And so anything that was left over from the prior ones would have already been paid out. And given the amount of money that's so low, clearly we've paid out the other prior 3 already, because there's only $150,000 remaining now after the most recent payment. But I can definitely find out exactly if they can give us a line item of which levy, so we know, because those are restricted funds, so we know exactly how they can be spent.
Yeah, because I would be careful. I mean, it would be great, but we want to make sure that we didn't say, because I know there may have been there were some items there for facilities that we were going to be, I think Ken was going to work on even
Yeah.
this summer, and we just need to figure that out before and then figure out what is actually left.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
But that's great news. I mean, if that money's there, that's great. I just want to make sure we're not spending when on something that was designated.
Okay, any other,
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Next up is consent agenda. I need a motion to bring the consent agenda to the table for consideration.
I make a motion to bring the consent agenda to the table.
Okay, I have a motion from Vice Chair Brown. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a second from Trustee Hall to bring the consent agenda to the floor. Questions, debate?
The RWC group, what was that for?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Trustee Hall, I believe that's related to, you can look at the documents on the packet, but I believe that's something for the technology team that we have to pay for. Is that right, Ron?
For RWC, I thought that was for the mobile mechanics come and work on the buses when we didn't have mechanics.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Instead of toning them down, so RWC still can, and the mobile mechanics came up to us.
Thank you, Ron.
And Sonic Wall?
That's a technology. For Sonic Wall, Ron? I can say, just to add some levity to the conversation, Trustee Hall, the boundary tractor, that's for a deck that Ken ordered 2 years ago for one of the lawnmowers.
I did see that there were a couple of,
So it's a couple years old that it finally showed up, and it's about a $30,000 mower that we'll now be able to start using again.
because it was
So-
pretty late on the date, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty late, but at least we got it.
So I'm Ron Cruz, Technology Director, for the record. Margie, the Meraki network, or the Sonic Wall is for the adult content filtering by federal law. Since we get E-rate funds, we have to abide by the Children Internet Protection Act, which means we have to do adult content filtering on any of our devices. Sonic Wall covers all of our desktops, and we use iBoss, which was already paid for all those student laptops.
And the Ednetics is up for all the new updated software?
So the Ednetics is all of our network devices, the access points and the switches require a license. And it looks like a lot. They gave us two quotes, a 1-year quote and a 3-year quote. So we have 114 different devices, and each one has to have its own license. So if you break that out, it's about $100 a year. So if you think of your cell phone, what your cell phone costs per month, we're paying $100 a year for each of these devices. We have 114 devices, like I said. So this is the license to allow us to use those to have all of our network. And if we don't pay it by July 29th, we no longer have a computer network.
Okay. Got it?
Okay.
You mean I can't pull it?
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a
Unless there's
motion
another
from
motion.
Trustee Hall to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Trustee Reinbolt seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I'm sorry to see those that resigned leave. I want to recognize Ken's hard work on a lot of things.
Okay.
And Amber's. And all of them.
All right.
And Mr. Superintendent, how many people have we hired already?
So Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman Brown, we haven't had any official new hires yet. The reason is because temporary staff aren't considered new hires. And so we expect to be making offers for employment on a pretty quick clip. So the next time we have this meeting, this list is going to get pretty long, pretty fast.
Okay. Next up is new business. First up is consideration and approval of facilities use agreement.
So I think there was a miscommunication. If this is the one that I forwarded, it belongs under the budget gap and work session results discussion.
No, this.
Oh, this,
is a
okay,
different
this
one.
isn't different one, and it's not in, it is the
Yeah,
gun
sorry.
club,
It's
sorry.
for the gun show.
Gun
Yes.
show,
Yeah.
okay. So
Okay.
it didn't show up in the packet, so let me
Yeah,
look over here.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to bring it to the table.
okay.
And I second that?
I have a first and a, from trustee Hall, second from Vice Chair Brown. It's all yours, Martin.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Martin Nagel from Connexu 97. We're the guys that bring the gun show twice a year. Same thing, 20-some years of doing this. I think you guys all know the story, but some 75 vendors are involved, sometimes a little more, sometimes just a little bit less. Guns, ammo, leather, accessory, hunting. Some of you may even have bought your first hunting rifle at our gun show. You're young enough. We give two $1,000 scholarships to the high school each year, and we give $1,500 to the junior high for the exclusive use of the principal for things that are not budgeted. It's been, the back door, I think, was the very first thing we did, because there was a piece of rebar that kept the back door locked, and there was wrestling mats, an audio system, paper and pencils, shoes, all kinds of different things have been given to the kids over the years from our donation. We've never had any trouble. Our donations to the junior high have exceeded probably 25,000. We never kept a real good count of it, but about 25,000 over the period of time. We started at the industrial park. And also, we've been using Mrs. English, who retired this year, I believe, as our custodian, and we're happy to take care of whatever cost she has. So we usually give her a donation. Anyway, we're requesting use of the gun show, or this junior high for the gun show, August 22nd, which is Friday for setup.
August or September?
September.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking August already, because we got to call vendors immediately when we get going. 22nd, 23rd, and clean up on Sunday the 25th. So it's 2.5 days, really.
Okay,
Any questions?
any questions?
That this is a question for the board. Have we suspended use of facilities at this point? I mean, I'm gonna, because we had suspended use of facilities until we had figured out the budget, hadn't we? To a certain degree for outside groups. And the only, if we have, then we may need to do a sort of a caveat. I know that there has been quite a you've been making donations, so I guess I would look at suspending, if we have suspended it, that we might look at, because of the donations that you give, that there's, that they might be.
Can I speak, I'll speak to this. These guys are self. Okay, these guys are self-supported, it looks like. So I don't see a problem with this. We don't need a lot of support for the district.
Right, but if we decide here, then we need to make that same, we need to do that. We can't make this if we do this, then we'll make it a precedent. And I guess what I'm saying is that they are self-supportive, but we just need to know that we're making the precedent. And if another group comes up and says they want to use that one of the facilities or the buildings, that we realize that that's, we're making that precedent. But I'm also recognizing the donations that they make to scholarship and to the junior high are always substantial. I mean, they're a good, and that's what I would be looking at,
Right.
is the donation that they're making as sort of why we are momentarily making that exception, because we have suspended use of the buildings at this time.
Okay,
So if that makes it clear, we've suspended it, then we're letting it go, then we're changing our precedent. So I want to make sure we're following, we're establishing a precedent that and hopefully we can change that, and it's not an issue, but they take care of it themselves. They give us a great donation, And I think that I'm recognizing that as why we are maybe making the exception at
Okay.
this time.
So noted. Okay, do I have a motion on the floor to accept this proposal?
I do make a motion on the floor to accept it. I am always still, it's a little hard to say a gun show at a school, but I know it is Idaho code, and I can't hold it up, so I recognize the good, that you do take care of it, are very conscientious about it. I just wish there were another place in the community besides the schools because of all the school shootings, and I recognize and thank you for your donations.
Safest place in town that whole weekend.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor for the facilities use agreement for the gun club. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, trustee Reinbold seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Also want to say thank you to the police department and the sheriff's department for their drive-bys and their walkthroughs. The vendors like it. I like it. Thank you very much.
Next up, I need a motion to go into executive session as provided in Idaho Code 74-206, 1A, hiring board clerk.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session 74-206-1A, board clerk, hiring board clerk.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by trustee Hall.
I'll second that.
I have a second by Vice Chair Brown to go into executive session as provided in Idaho Code 74-206, 1A. Roll call, please. Brandy?
Here.
Trustee Hall,
Here.
Trustee Barton,
Here?
Here.
Trustee Reinbold,
Here.
and Chair Rutledge.
Here. Okay, we are now in executive session.
So,
Yeah, we gotta take her with us.
Hey, you're going on a little walk, Carlin. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Library, do you want to go to the teacher's station? Sure, I don't care.
I'm terribly serious about Well, that's, the number's the same, business is different, but the number's the same. But anything you guys need, when I shut the golf course down this year, I got all sorts of time.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Then you know, if you guys golf, come in, use my name, I'll buy you first round of golf.
Thank you.
Oh, wow, thank you